and back at Education USA. I'm going to say, got it. Okay. And yeah, I think I did one of my first Zooms ever in this office back years ago. So I'm glad to be here again. Um, and Grinnell College has been seeing more interest from Brazilian students seeking undergraduate liberal arts and science education in the US. So I'm happy to share today, hopefully some helpful information as you're thinking about applying to what we call highly selective liberal arts and sciences. Sometimes we forget to say that part. You'll hear also liberal arts colleges, but doesn't mean we're leftist painters, and that's all you do here at our schools. It means we educate people liberally and broadly in both humanities, social studies, and natural sciences. So that's shorthand, liberal arts, but it's good to remember that if you guys are interested in STEM, you can certainly do that at high levels at our types of schools. I'll talk about Grinnell specifically, and I think understanding how to make good application to a liberal arts and sciences college is something very different than the process for most other universities around the world, including Brazil, where we know it's pretty much, and it's true in other countries as well, admission is something that's bestowed on people based on their national leaving exam scores. The vestibular, I think you also say it like vegetable in English. I think it's close enough. Vestibular. And we want a lot more information from you. So when you look at common application and you're applying to liberal arts colleges, you kind of maybe going to wonder why we're asking for recommendation letters and an essay and wanting to know about your extracurricular things or hobbies that you pursue when you're not studying. And so hopefully we'll, in telling you about who we are and what we do, you'll understand why we're asking for those kinds of things. And then we'll also maybe get into a little bit about financial aid, because also most of us, I think there's maybe 6 schools currently in the US that are need blind, meaning they don't look at financial decision versus need aware, which the rest of us in the US are. And we'll explain a little bit more about that, but that's another component of what we call a holistic review of an application. Holistic meaning trying to look at the whole person. We're building communities every year on these liberal arts campuses, which tend to be small, 1,000 to maybe 3,000 students in total, usually. And so that's a little bit different as well. But on a smaller campus, one person can really make a big difference. And so that's why we want to get to know the whole person, not just their score, not just their academic credentials and achievements, but who they are and what they'll bring to our campus. Because when you're living and learning together, as most of us are residential campuses in nature, meaning we're all living together for all 4 years. Oh, okay.
Jonathan,
Yeah.
Luciana is gonna add the cable internet because I think it will be better for your connection.
Oh,
So
okay.
guys, bear with us for just 1 minute.
Okay. I can wait. We need to move. Okay.
Pessoal, só um minutinho, a gente está colocando aqui uma conexão para o Jonathan, e obrigada pela presença de vocês.
Uh, okay, so do I turn that off? Okay. Does it look
No?
like we're
Okay,
good
let's
now?
carry on. Let's carry on.
Oh. So I think, so yeah, I was talking about the, make sure this is turned up right. I was talking about the campus culture at a lot of these small liberal arts colleges, and why it's good that we're small. We are building communities. Your students leave us, so we kind of reshape our culture a little bit every year when we do intake and graduation. And so it's important to understand that when you're with people from all over the world, all over the country, you have learning as much from each other as you do from the professors and coursework over the 4 years. You become a different person, you mature, you learn more about yourself, where you stand on things, how you're going to work successfully with other people, what's going to be not just your profession, but perhaps your purpose, ideally. And so that's a different goal, I think, than many other university systems that might be professional in nature. You go to university to get a credential, to do a specific job. And at liberal colleges, we're much more interested in continuing to develop not only intellectual and academic interests, but personal and social development of the students, who are typically 18 to 22 at the undergraduate level. And so this is why we're asking stuff beyond just your school, beyond just your grades. So as we talk, keep that in mind. That's our goal, and that's part of your goal when you apply to be in a place like this. And this is sort of your first assignment when you're thinking about it. To the application that you present is sort of indicative and sort of can characterize you as not only an applicant but a potential student on the campus. So meeting deadlines, being thorough, following directions, all of that is very important. You're kind of making your first impression in that sense. We'll talk about Grinnell now, and as we do, I'll try to back up and mention why at other liberal arts and sciences colleges you'd be wanting to think about some of the same things. At Grinnell, we, as I said, we are small. We're a small school in a small town. It's over there. I think if I take that out, my presentation will go away. I don't need the mouse. So lots of, as I said, lots of liberal arts schools are small in their enrollment, their class size. We, as you can see, are 1,700 students that are all undergraduate students, and that's good. That means that all of our faculty attention, all of our resources, all of our organizations, staff are committed to the undergraduate experience. At large universities, that might not always be the case, or there might not be the same resources for undergraduate programs, as many big universities receive funding based on what their graduate students or master's level and PhD students are doing to further the school's reputation. Even football teams at big schools might be the beneficiaries. But at Grinnell, all the money we have, to talk about is for U.S. undergraduates. We're in a town of Grinnell. Grinnell is in Grinnell, Iowa. So we're in the Midwest, about 4 hours west of Chicago, and right in between Des Moines, capital city of about 300,000 people, and Iowa City, which is a big university, state university school of 30 or 35,000 students. So we're in a small town. It is the first time that many of our students will have ever lived in a town so small. But what it does, I think, is because it is also very diverse, and as you can see, very international. At 20% of our students coming from outside of the US. We are one of the more international schools in the country by that measure. And so sort of forced this issue of community, because you can't escape to a big city. You can't leave easily on the weekend, like it or not. And it's not always easy at first, but you're together and you're going through this experience together. We make a lot of our own fun. We get creative. Fortunately, we have lots of funding to bring great opportunities, speakers, bands, entertainment to us in Grinnell. And when we do that, those people are also sort of captive for the time they're with us, and you get a lot of face time and opportunity to interact directly with whoever those people might be. And so that's nice. You can see in terms of our diversity, where people are coming from, geodiversity or geographic diversity, we call it. All 50 states. California is the third largest sending state of domestic students to Grinnell. So lots of Californians are coming to the middle of Iowa. And again, students from over 50 countries. And I have right now 15 Brazilians. And that has changed in the last 3 years. So we've seen it almost triple. And so we're happy about that. It means that I have a reason to come to Brazil more often, which I love. And so I've already spent a week and a half here. So I have to go home tomorrow. I love this quote. Probably you haven't heard of Iowa. You don't see Iowa in many movies, although there is a famous one called Field of Dreams from the 80s, I think, or maybe early 90s. Yeah, it's
Jonathan, I
a
think
place that you have to find. And
I think the slides are not, you're still on the first one, right? Just to confirm.
no, I've moved to one now with kids sitting on the ground. Okay, now I'm going back and forth. Can't see it?
No.
Okay. I'm not sure why that is.
Just a second, I'll go there. I'll go there and see if I can help.
Let me stop sharing and maybe I can.
Yeah, maybe if you stop and start again.
How about that?
You're not sharing yet.
Oh, I'm not. Okay. I will go back to Zoom.
I'll go and try and give you a hand just a second.
Share screen. Sorry, folks. This should do it. So I'm sharing, and this is where I was. So, oh, can now see. Oh, okay. Ah, perfect. Okay. Anyway, where was I? And I was in Iowa. And right. So I think because we're not maybe the first place people ever think about when they think about going to school in the US. Number one, they don't first think about liberal arts and sciences colleges. And then, they don't often know about Iowa. So it is a place that students have to do some research. They have to get connected with our students, with their faculty, which part of our job in admissions is to help facilitate that contact when you become a serious applicant. And there's a fair amount of self-selection. So people don't just end up at Grinnell because it's the beaten path, so to speak. But if they've done the research, they find out it's the right place for them, and it doesn't matter where it is. And in fact, maybe it's cool that they have grown up in a city and they can kind of have a slower pace, get around easily, have sort of everything taken care of you. On a residential campus, you have a meal plan. These students are sitting right outside of our dining hall. You walk, meters to your dorm room, to classroom. Everything is contained, and we take out a lot of at a bigger school in a big city where you could maybe only get a room your first year or two, and then you have to go out and get an apartment, find roommates, hopefully roommates that aren't crazy, pay a landlord, buy your groceries, clean up, all of this stuff. We kind of take care of those basic life necessities so that our students can really sink their teeth into their academics, to the friendships that they're going to develop, the clubs and organizations that are going to help them develop great sort of soft skills and that's another reason why you might want to go to a residential and a small residential campus. So another thing is that I think when they get to Grinnell, they're happy to be there. They're not surprised. They've done the research. It is a little spooky, I think, for students from big cities because it's maybe so quiet. I know students from Tokyo and Bombay are always saying, "Oh, it's first, it's so quiet." Or I went to an early class and I only passed one or two people. The space is something you need to get your head around, and also, let's be honest, the weather. We have 4 seasons in the Midwest, and we have cold winters. So for our Brazilians, for our students from India, from sub-Saharan Africa, that's also a new thing, but it makes you stronger, right? There's just some pictures now interspersed with some of this stuff. Talking about activities, one of the largest student organizations were started by a couple of students or shared government association, got a budget, and were able to have resources to plan events. And this is an event that I always like. This is the International Student Organization, which is one of our larger student organizations. It's their cultural evening, which they do in April. It's a sold out night in our biggest venue on campus, and usually a 2 to 3 hour show of talent from around the world, singing, dancing, spoken word poetry, fashion shows, you name it. Our students are celebrated and get a chance to show that off. The other thing we do, big event for International Student Organization in November, is the International Food Bazaar, where everyone gets money from the college, anyone that wants to, with a couple of their friends. You have to make 50 portions of a favorite dish from home. And so one year, of course, Brazilians made the pão de queijo, and they made more than 50, of course, because a portion is for 4 or 5 or 6, right? Technically, I think. So, but that's shared. We usually have, could be up to 80 different recipes made and shared in one meal on campus, again, and in a big venue where people can go around and sort of surf the world in a culinary sense. And our students love that. So here again, we were talking about being a small community and having a small personalized approach to learning. These numbers, I think, helps to sort of point to what that means. Our average class size is 17. We don't have a lecture hall that seats more than 60 or 70 people, I think, on our campus. If you're in major coursework, where you're becoming a specialist in a certain field of study within a division, you're going to maybe have a class with 6 to 8 students in it. You're going to have to be prepared for every class, because when you're in a class that small, there's nowhere to hide, and your professor will look across the table and ask what you think of your, your peers' comment on the reading that was assigned for the day, or what do you think we didn't do quite right in the lab yesterday, or that kind of thing. So it is a place where discussion is usually the main method of teaching. So questioning, finding answers together, not just listening to what the professor thinks about it. Certainly they guide discussions very well, but the idea of bringing a lot of people from different backgrounds and worldviews is that people will learn from each other, not just the professor. So that's important to realize. You see, we have 0 teaching assistants. At large universities, sometimes the beginning classes will be taught by master's level students that may only be a few years older than you. I know because I did this at the University of Illinois in Chicago. I was a German master's degree student. I could speak German pretty well. Part of my scholarship was to teach German 101. So I spoke German, but I didn't know how to teach. I'd never done it before, but they put me in the classroom, and I felt kind of bad for maybe my first semester's class, because I was trying to figure out how teaching works. So eventually that happened, and it was better. But at Grinnell, every class is taught by a full seasoned professor. They're hired, number 1, because they're great teachers. Number 2, because they do their own research, which involves our current students. And number 3 at Grinnell, because they also advise first-year students regularly. And we'll talk about that in a sec. 27 different majors and concentrations. A major takes about 1/3 of your coursework over the 4 years, but you can take classes in any department, any of the 4 years that you're at liberal arts colleges. There's not a track where you do a few things. It's a la carte, as you might say. You do at Grinnell, and most other schools have to at least declare one major area of study that will take that 1/3 of your total coursework by the end of your 2nd year in Grinnell's case, but right before spring break in early March of your 2nd year. You can declare earlier, but that's when you have to declare at least one. And by then you will have taken some introductory classes to see what you really enjoy. Some people come undecided, and they don't quite realize that it's okay to check that. I know in Brazil, you only take the exam for the one school you want to go to. It's even before, it's even part of your exam options, right? At liberal arts colleges, you get in because you're a strong student. And once you get to our campuses, you have time to specialize, to decide what you're going to specialize in. And I say, you kind of can hit the reset button in a way, because if you've maybe in Brazilian curriculum, you never got to do a whole lot of psychology, or not as deeply as you'd like to get into that subject. So land on one of our campuses, and you can start with some psychology or anthropology or something else that maybe it would be of interest. By the end of that 2nd year, you're declaring a major. You're saying, this is what I'm going to focus on, but I can still take all these other classes because the major is only 1/3. You can see there that 34% of our students, I think it's more now, but can double major, meaning And that's in Grinnell's case because we have what we call an open curriculum. And I guess I should mention that that is different from many other liberal arts schools in that they often have what might be called core curriculum or general education requirements. Again, those are courses that are dictated either very strictly or more openly by the college in order for every student to graduate. So it might be 2 humanities courses, 2 sciences, 2 social studies, an arts class, a philosophy class, and that can start to add up to, again, about a third of your coursework in requirements for graduation. In open curriculum, or as Grinnell describes it, an individually advised curriculum, you'll see on the bottom right-hand corner that we only have 1 required class. And this class is a lot of fun. It's only for first-year students. Every other class you have at Grinnell may have all different grade levels in the class, but this is sort of your introduction to the Grinnell classroom. And it's also connected to our advising system. So you get in the summer a list of interesting courses that faculty have developed, normal research interest, perhaps a side interest that they have or a brand new interest. They design a course around that topic, and then you read about them. You get to pick your top 5 most intriguing choices. Usually students are placed in their first or second. My friend, for example, Chavi Estando, he's a doctor of sociology. He has a course called Football and Nationalism. And he looks at, the global economy of soccer, where the pressure points are in certain areas, the socioeconomic implications in communities and business and that kind of thing, where it's found. One of the assignments he has students do is to write an essay about a famous football club rivalry and what it has meant for good or bad to those communities where those clubs are. So that's an interest of his. He says that he was recruited for the young sort of Barcelona feeder team, but I'm not sure I believe that. But anyway, he's a great soccer fan, great teacher. And I was just at dinner in Sao Paulo with a former student of his in that class who really said that was a great way to start his college career, was with a class that was, fun. And the idea is that no one's an expert perhaps on this subject and everyone can kind of go through it together. But it does give you all the hallmarks of the Grinnell classroom that you will experience throughout your 4 years, meaning you got to be prepared. You're going to discuss a lot. You're going to learn to listen to other people. You're going to unlearn some things that you thought were true that maybe you might reconsider. And you'll also learn to know when you don't know something. And this is a skill I think a lot of people, depending on the sort of your cultural upbringing, are more or less comfortable admitting or more or less better at seeking help and advocating for themselves when they need help or when they don't know something, right? So this is part of that too. So yeah, the double major will then give you, 2/3 of your courses. We have a lot of people, there's ones that go well together. So whether we like it or not, economics and political science often go together in good and bad ways. So studying both of those together might be helpful if you want to create a business or go into the sort of corporate realm or into consulting, that kind of thing. But I have had a student from Northern Ireland who was early on declared biochemistry. She was spending summers at the Mayo Clinic, which is only a couple hours north of Grinnell, researching blood cancers on a research experience for the summer. But she was still writing a lot. She loved to read, she loved to write. And because she was a scientist, she gravitated towards writing science fiction. She ended up writing a novel about or novella, I think, with one of our writers in residence as part of a second major in English about a photosynthetic human named Lux, which was pretty cool. So again, in her case, both sides of the brain working pretty hot and heavy, and you know, finding ways to combine interests and talents that she had. Again, this is one of the reasons on the application that we want to know about what those other passions might be. Hopefully your only passion isn't studying hard for an exam. That would be less appealing for us as a small, vibrant community, right? We don't want people that are going to be in the library the whole time, or in the lab, or in their room studying the whole time, for sure. Although sometimes that's required. These are some of our top majors. As I said, we have 27 or so, plus the concentrations, but you'll see economics, computer science, political science. This picture here is of our latest, greatest $128 million renovation and addition to our humanities and social studies center. There's a data analytics and social inquiry lab in there with lots of bells and whistles, great new state-of-the-art classrooms and furniture and computers and the way it's wired and everything, the way it's been built sustainably as well. And so here you can see a class with, you know, right there, at least just 4 people. They have these great outdoor chalkboards they put together. Maybe a couple people weren't in class, but you know, this is probably a higher level of major area type course. Computer science is interesting. There's a party at, we have it's called the Harris Center, and it's like, because we don't have clubs in small town Grinnell, we have to make our own fun, and we have a big building that's got a dance hall with sound system and lights and a movie theater and all that students have parties in every weekend. But I was saying about computer science, and this is something, if I look at this computer that I'm sitting at, I see the Intel Core i5 8th generation. So the guy that co-invented the microchip and started Intel was from Grinnell. He grew up in Grinnell, went to Grinnell College, and was a brilliant physics and math major, I believe. He, at some point, came back to the college as Intel was getting started, looking for investors. 2 of our members of our board of trustees invested $100,000 each, so a $200,000 early investment in Intel yielded us a 1,500% return on that investment, and now we have great managers who often are beating Harvard's return on investment against their portfolio managers, to have a $3 billion endowment for just the 1,700 students. So it does mean that Grinnell is also unique, not only in terms of our international diversity and the open or individually advised curriculum, but also with respect to resources. And again, when you have resources, things can happen more quickly. You don't have to have committee meeting after committee meeting to decide who's going to get part of a smaller pot of money. At Grinnell, if a student has a great idea, if a faculty member has a great idea for a class that's going to need some investment, if student organizations want to do things that are important to the college's mission and reflect you know, what's important to them, things can happen pretty quickly and in big ways. So that's a real benefit, and I think students benefit from that endowment and the investment that we make in our students in many ways. So certainly on the front end, they benefit, and we'll talk about our financial aid policies when we are admitting students. But throughout the 4 years, they really subsidize a lot of formative student experiences that are helping you build resumes, helping you gain research experience, helping you have a stronger sort of springboard when you go off into the the wider world after you graduate. And so one of the ways we invest in students is through experiential educational opportunities. So there are really three of them. I like to start with off-campus study. I travel a lot. I think travel is one of the most informative and educational things you can do. And we want our students, even though we have a beautiful campus with a lot of great people, we want them to get out into the world and spend some time either abroad or elsewhere in the United States while they're with us. And even though you're an intern technically, if they want to have another off-campus study experience, studying computer science in Budapest, Hungary, or Japanese culture and language in Waseda University in Tokyo, name it, there's 100 of these different approved programs. And the approved list means that the faculty have vetted the academic integrity of these programs, and therefore will guarantee the transfer of credit that you earn abroad, so that you'll still be able to graduate in 4 years. You still have to get good grades. You can't sit in the cafe all day in Paris and not go to class. Get those credits towards the financial resources we have is that we tell students, whatever you get at Grinnell for that same semester, we will pay towards the cost of your study abroad program, which was often anyway cheaper than it would cost to attend Grinnell, and that actually gives you a little bit of spending money. And I think many okay. My screen went blank for a minute. Am I up and running? Okay, I think so.
Yes, you are. Yeah, you are. You are.
Okay, great. Thanks. That was weird. So we'll tell our students that you can take that money from Grinnell towards the cost of those study abroad programs. In many cases at other schools, it might be you could only take the money if you go on a school-sponsored program, and there may not be as much variety offered in those situations. And so we really try to empower students by saying, go on any of these programs. Even if a program isn't on our list and you do the research and can present it for approval, then that happens often, and that's how we've gotten up to 100 some programs that are approved. So that's something to be kind of excited about. Some of our econ folks go to the London School of Economics for their entire third year and live in London and do that. But all kinds of purposes and types of programs that are available to students, and again, even to non-US students. Now, am I not sharing anymore?
I'll be there with you in a minute. Let me see if I can help you. Just a second. Oh, you're back.
Okay. I think that whatever happened kicked off my sharing power.
So, but I can't see anything. Oh, yeah.
Point.
You are on slide 4.
Oh, there we go. Okay.
Are you on slide 4?
So,
is that what you want?
now I have a picture of people dancing.
No. We still see the one with the
might have
code.
had that same problem. Okay. Okay. I'm gonna stop share. Now I'm gonna share again. Now do we have something?
Nothing now.
Okay.
Okay.
So I'll keep working on that. But so yeah, this is why it's nice to think about, especially if you want to get into international careers, to think about what might be possible to develop experience outside of the U.S. Do we have that now? Which says it screen sharing?
Yes.
Oh, okay,
Yay.
good. Thank you. Obrigado. That's my one word. Obrigado. And so this is another picture from the cultural evening, the Bollywood dance. Usually this is the last performance of the evening because it's super high energy and nobody wants to follow that. So that's the show closer, as you could imagine. We also do Holy. The student was US Brazilian who's blowing the green smoke there. And now, okay, so this is a little bit more about careers. We used to call our center the Career Center until maybe about 12 or 15 years ago. We've sort of redefined the preparing students for careers. It used to be at some of these top liberal arts colleges, and if I didn't say, Grinnell's ranked 15th in the nation among national liberal arts colleges as of this year's U.S. News and World Report, for whatever that might be worth. But it used to be thought, oh, you went to a really good school, you get a suit at the end of your senior year and go on some interviews and you'll get a job and you'll be fine. We're trying to be much more deliberate about that and start early, often, with helping students think about not what's going to be meaningful to them, what's kind of purpose personally. And so that's kind of a different approach again to maybe what would be seen at large universities in other countries, because as we've already said, you're signing up in the day one for a preparation for a particular career that you're going to be heading toward. But because our students can do lots of different things with their degrees, it might not be that they'll go do something exactly in the major that they study, for example, might be related. Lots of our students, you can see international students are accessing the Careers Life and Service Center, which is, as I said, now what we call it. It's reflective of a broader mission, so it's got a new, broader title. But really it starts, as I said, we have the open curriculum. There's all kinds of freedom that we give our students at Grinnell. We treat them like adults, basically, and when we do that, they tend to behave like adults. And we feel like they are able to start thinking about things for themselves. But we do require that students meet with, at least one semester, what's called an exploratory CLS advisor, that Career Life and Service Center advisor, at least once a semester, starting in their first year. Usually it happens more often than that. But this is a new way of sort of thinking about career development, is starting really slowly and getting to know the student through this exploratory advisor relationship. They will interview you, they'll talk to you, they'll have you do maybe a Myers-Briggs type of personality test or other sort of aptitude tests that might, help you think about your, affinities, where you might have a lot of natural skill and talent. A lot of students want to become doctors or lawyers, and they think that's what they have to do. They can sort of maybe help you break out or at least branch out a bit and think about other careers, perhaps in those same fields, but that might be better suited for you. So it's all advice. They're not going to tell you what to do, but they are going to help you figure it out for yourself. That's sort of a theme at Grinnell, I think, teaching students how to advocate for themselves and being responsive in big ways when they do reach out. So lots of international students again are doing this. It does get a little trickier. We have lots of great alumni, and small schools will tend to have, I think, enthusiastic in helping students sort of find out what they want to do by saying, you know what, I'm an expert in this field. If you think you're interested in that, come and check me at work for a few days. We have a program called Grinnell Link that does that over our 2 weeks break. We do that for 50 to 70 students or by the college, which is, again, a great investment that the college can make. Students are going on these things, getting a taste of not only the job itself, but the home life. Faculty or alumni are often helping by hosting students in their home as well as on the job, so they can kind of see that work-life blend and what that might look like, at least in one example. The other thing that we try to do is have specialists that connect people with these alumni for internships. So because we're in a small town, there's not a lot of major international corporations or organizations. We do use our summers to have our students seek and do long internships over the summer, so 8 to 10 weeks. We have internship funding for those students that might get an offer in New York City to work on Wall Street for a finance company, but perhaps they can't afford to pay New York rent for 2 months of high cost of living there. So Grinnell has internship funding, of which they spend often close to $500,000 over the summer supporting students in $2,000 to $4,000 increments typically, so that they can say yes to these internships, which are often unpaid or underpaid because of the great supply of plucky, eager college students that want to do internships. Sometimes if finances might prohibit someone from accessing those opportunities, we want to support them with supplementary funding to offset those costs. The other thing a lot of our students want to prepare for is graduate school. For the 4 years that you're at Grinnell, ideally, you're getting even more excited about education and learning and becoming an expert in your field. We've sort of, you've come with that flame and it's been turned into a bonfire by the end of 4 years at Grinnell because of all that you'll get to do in those areas and all the faculty and staff will do to influence and encourage that interest. So Grinnell is usually not the last our students attend school. They go on for master's programs. They'll go into PhD programs or combined master's and PhD programs, medical school, law school, architecture, engineering, those kinds of things at the master's level. And in fact, we rank 7th in the nation for the per capita production of PhDs. And I think on that list, it's produced every 10 years. They basically ask everyone with a PhD, where did you do your undergraduate? And then they rank order for by institution size, those that are most productive in producing or in creating PhD students from their baccalaureate origins. And I think MIT is the only Ivy that's in the top 10. Most of us on the top 10 list are liberal arts and sciences colleges. And usually that's because you've worked so closely with faculty that being a scholar has kind of been demystified for you. You're like, oh, if Chavi can do it and teach a course on football and nationalism, I can do it. Why not? I've worked closely with him. He's not perfect, but this is how he did it. This is how he's teaching me to do it. And it doesn't become such a far off or strange idea for students. So I think that's kind of important, and not that you have to be thinking at age 17 that you're going to get a PhD. There's no pressure to do it, but just means that, in the 4 years that you're at Grinnell, you're going to get the requisite academic and intellectual skill sets. That fire is going to continue, that desire to keep learning, and the skills, the work ethic, I should say, to get to that point is also going to be developed and grown. So, but those are also skills you need in the work world, and a lot of our students, you can see 60% go directly into employment. Now, when you're an international student, you'll have to start learning about visa regulations and guidelines. We do have optional practical training for students to work for a year still on their student F1 visa. So you're not in school, but that visa privilege is extended for a year while you work in a field that is related to one of your major areas of study. And that's another reason some international students want to do 2 majors, because that gives them maybe more options in the job market when they want to pursue this optional practical training opportunity. If you're in the STEM areas, so science, technology, engineering, math, you are often given the opportunity to extend for 2 years if, again, you're working in a STEM related field. So up to 3 years is EducationUSA knows about all of that stuff probably better than I do, and how it actually works. So if you have questions about that, it's not always something that can be guaranteed, but at Grinnell we do help to help our students become competitive for jobs that will be able to be OPT type work that they can do. And usually they'll do that before they go to graduate school, because as I said, a lot of our students are headed to graduate school at some point, and sometimes taking a little break, getting some work experience, and then applying for graduate school. Sometimes with that work experience helping to guide what you want to study. Maybe I really don't want to do marketing. Maybe I do want to get into finance. I worked for a marketer for a year after college, and it wasn't my favorite thing. So that can also help kind of steer those decisions. We may have surpassed the fire code attendance limit or capacity limit here, but this is one of the events we have. It was during Martin Luther King Day. We have lots of symposia and speaker series that come. We have writers in residence at Grinnell. There's a special house that they live in when they come for shorter, longer periods to work with people in the English department and creative writers, journalists, that kind of thing. Again, when we bring students, or when we bring speakers and experts and famous people to Grinnell, they're ours for as long as they're on campus. And so it is pretty amazing. This is another shot of our new Humanities and Social Studies Center. You can see we like this older building so much that we just built a building over the top of it and preserved it and renovated the inside of all of those, as well as having these new additions. So that's great space that we're lucky to have. This is where some of our folks go to work. Again, with the computer science history, I mentioned Robert Noyce, the microchip person. Also, if you've ever attached anything to an email, that was a Grinnell student, Nathaniel Borenstein, developed MIME protocol. And if you've ever bought anything online, that shopping cart program was originally written and patented by a guy named Joel Spiegel, who was a longtime vice president at Amazon and is still on our board and comes to campus often for meetings and interacts with students and faculty. Wealth of knowledge about the tech sector. So a lot of students are drawn to that. You can see we also sometimes keep some people on campus for a little while. Graduates, and we like when they stick around for a little longer. Okay, so this is sort of a recap for you, and I think I've hit all of those except for we'll talk a little bit more about the application process, which is going to be similar to lots of highly selective liberal arts colleges, but also about our financial aid policy, which is kind of rare. So for Grinnell, again, we talked about this endowment that we spend on our students. On the front end, we invest in them, and really, that's what you're doing when you apply for aid. You're asking the school to invest in you, and it's depending on your need. It might not be a small investment, and that's why, again, getting back to how to fill out these applications, you really have to keep that in mind if you're also applying for need-based financial aid, because the way you present yourself, you have maybe 10 to 15 minutes of a reader's attention, maybe 5 minutes of a committee's attention if you get to committee. You really have to think about putting together your best application. And again, that's why you come to EducationUSA, and that's what they're experts on. And they even know the personalities of schools that might inform the way you approach that school's application or that school's supplemental essay question, whatever it might be. So they're really a great resource. For Grinnell, I'm happy to say that we meet the full or 100% of the financial need of any student that we admit with no loans. And right now, there's only 12 schools in the U.S. that have a no loan policy, meaning that no part of your aid award is going to require you to pay back loans that you would choose to take or not to take. That a lot of schools, and Grinnell as well, until 3 years ago when we started this policy, would make a need award and usually add $2,500 in campus employment that you would work for in 2-week payments during the school year. Then we would put about $4,000 in loan. So if you didn't want to take a loan, if you couldn't take a loan, then you'd have to come up with another $4,000 from somewhere to pay it. If you did take the loan, you were liable to pay that plus 4% interest at least 6 months, beginning 6 months after you graduate. The repayment was deferred. But now we make, and they're based on your need. So grants are need. Scholarships are merit. Merit can be given for if you're a great soccer player. We don't do that at Grinnell because we're Division III, and that the status prohibits us from giving money for sports talent. But that's a type of scholarship based on merit, something that you can do or have done. We don't do merit aid necessarily for international students. We do it for domestic students up to $25,000 per year. Most of our international students require need, and so they don't really worry about whether it's grants or scholarship. Their out-of-pocket is what they can afford. And so don't get turned off if the school says we have limited scholarships or we don't give scholarships. Ask about grants, ask about how they meet need. Of course, in a need-aware environment, as I said earlier, not only are we looking at all these academic credentials and talents and great things that your teachers might say about you, but we're also going to look at what we need to invest in you, as I was saying earlier. If you're a big investment, so if you have high need and would need most of the money to attend the college coming from Grinnell, that it becomes more competitive, because the fact is that a large percentage of our applicants would be considered high need applicants. So you're competing in that pool. Again, that's why I say it's important to really take the application process seriously, get advice from your counselors here and elsewhere, and really do your best. Also, I would add, many of us, and maybe it's truer of smaller schools, again, because we're building these small communities and we kind of care about who you are and how you're going to be on our campus and what you're going to bring to that daily sort of learning environment. We want to understand that you're that good investment, I guess. And I forget where I was going with that. I've been talking for 2.5 weeks about Grinnell. Maybe the wheels are coming on. So components of the application. And need aware, that's what we were talking about. You do have to sit down with your family, and sometimes, depending on the cultural situation or the relationship with your folks, you have to talk pretty honestly about what's affordable. We cost a lot, but you know that, and yet it's going to be more than they expected to pay. Depending on their experience, if they went to a subsidized university here in Brazil, maybe they assumed you would do the same. Maybe just last year, you said, oh, I want to go to the US. Well, this is what it costs. Oh, really? That's a lot of money. There hasn't maybe been a culture of saving for college like there is in places like the US, where my 2 kids vacation, and both my wife and I work for colleges, so of course we do. You start saving. And you will have saved for 17 or 18 years by the time they go, if you're doing things ideally, right? Your parents probably haven't, because they didn't have to pay for, they don't see university or higher education as something that is that expensive and requires early and planning and early saving. So I understand from their perspective how it's kind of crazy that maybe they're glad that hopefully they're supportive of your decision or desire to go abroad and perhaps to the US. But it is a different cost structure. And so basically this application, either the CSS profile or our own International Student Financial Aid application, which although the College Board doesn't support it anymore, many of us are creating our own versions of it, which is free to submit. You'll come up with what we call an expected family contribution. And if we admit you, we look at that, we say tell our financial aid office to take a look at it. If they agree that this is reasonable, given the financial information you've put down about your salary, your expenses, the currency exchange rate, which I know is tough right now in Brazil. And if they agree, yeah, this is reasonable, then that's your estimated or expected family contribution. We call it EFC. This is what we cost, maybe $78,000 at Grinnell for a comprehensive fee next year. This is your need. So if you come up with 20,000, your need is 58,000, and we'll meet 100% of that. Some schools might say we make 50% need.
I'm not sure if it's just me, but you're frozen, Jonathan. Jonathan?
Are we back or no?
Yes, you are back.
Did I go?
Yeah, you're not
Yes.
sharing anymore, but you're back.
Did I go away? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I think we're pretty close to done. And what's it? Okay. Good. So, sorry, I feel like I've been kind of rambling, but hopefully this has been helpful.
No, you were
But yeah, so
explaining,
we'll make
about
those.
the financial aid status, how you
Yeah.
analyze the financial aid. So it's good.
Right, right. And so that's how we'll make the award for those 4 years. A question to ask colleges when you do have an award in front of you is to say, what do you do with tuition increases? Is my family 100% responsible for a $3,000 tuition hike from 1 year to the next? And if so, can we afford that? Or like at Grinnell, does the college share the tuition increase 50 with the family? So a $3,000 increase would mean a $1,500 increase to the family, actually. So that's, oh, here we go. We're getting some questions that just
We
popped
have
up.
some
So
very good
Raquel,
questions, actually.
yeah, let me move to the chat. 15 people now. Awesome. I have 15 Brazilians on campus.
Yeah, you had 20 at one point.
Maybe last year, yeah, because we only brought in 3 this last year. But and I have to talk to you about some of these that I've interviewed that have students on the chat are as well. But there it is. Okay, so let's start from the top here. If I can grab it. I'm moving around. Okay, so scholarship opportunities. Okay, we just talked about that. I think for now, scholarship grant. We meet full need, whatever your need is, if we admit you. What's the most important item in the application for Grinnell? Well, the first question, there are 2 questions that we answer in admissions, basically, maybe 3. Will the student be able to do the work? It's very rigorous. We don't have or remedial English courses. People have to jump in with people that were all coming from like the top 10% of their high school graduating classes, who were always the one to get called on and would raise their hand and have the answers. It's a new identity crisis for some people, because often they were at their little schools or wherever, they were the ones that were, you know, the top dog, and now there's a bunch of top dogs in the classroom, and it's like, oh, okay, we all gotta bring it up a notch. Not that it's competitive, I don't think, but I think that does happen for students, that realization. But anyway, that does mean that professors have to be ensured that students are ready to be in that kind of environment on day 1. So can the student do the work? Can they do all the reading, the writing, the English, keep up with the pace of things? Usually you're taking 4 classes per semester, and a semester is about 4 months. But yeah, so the transcript, the level of the coursework that you're doing, the type of school you're at. So I know a lot of you are doing the national curriculum, and there's not much choice, and you're all doing the same thing. So basically, we'll look at how you're doing within the Brazilian national system. Some students might be doing IB or AP or Cambridge curriculums, and that's fine too. But that's the biggest first question. The second question is the student going to be happy on our campus? That's the second question as I see it. And maybe the third possible question is, will the student join us if we make them an offer? If we admit all the wrong people and nobody comes, that's not good. So that's where this demonstrated interest can come, which some schools will tell you they consider, which we also do. Engagement with admission staff, with programs that we offer. That's all sort of chronicled and calculated. And that can sort of help us as a small school, again, to bring a few people to the bit of a difference. If there's, on the other hand, a really strong student drops an application the day that it's due, maybe it's a very strong application, but we know nothing else about the
John?
at Grinnell, and assume that they will be happier as a result, then we do kind of consider how they've engaged with us. And we know that it's limited engagement opportunities for students that are abroad sometimes, and we put that into context as well. All right, so I popped off, and now I actually don't see. Oh, there it is. Okay, we have also okay, tips for the no men's volleyball club. Well, club maybe, yeah. I think you can play, but no varsity volleyball, I should say, for men. We do have women's varsity. We have a $92 million indoor athletic facility. And so there's lots of gym space for people to set up a volleyball net and get a ball. That's a fairly low cost sport in terms of proposition. Had a question about tips to make a nation stand out. We only the one essay. We got rid of the supplement. We found it wasn't as useful in the end, especially as we were getting more and more applications. So the essay is the most important thing in some regards after, I would say, after the transcript and your record of performance. And you should be most excited about the essay because you are in control of it 100%. That's the only thing you have total control of in the process. Your grades are what they are. You can't tell your teachers what they're gonna say in their recommendation letters. You've done your activities. You've gotten whatever accolades already that you've gotten or not gotten. Essay is where you can talk directly to that person that has some influence and can advocate for you if your essay gets them excited. You never know who's reading these. And something might resonate with someone and not with another person, right? But I think the tips about essays would be, in general, don't bite off more than you can do, I guess is what we say in States. Don't try to write me the essay that tells me how you're going to save the world or cure cancer or something like that. That's a pretty tough task. I'll tell you, I think what I like to learn things from essays, and reading international essays for 26 years. I've really appreciated the ones that are in a cultural context that teach me something about naming, or going to see these people that name babies. It can have clairvoyance. I'm not thinking of good examples right now, but or that have to do with food culture or music culture, that kind of thing, and what it means to you and why it's part of you. And one of the best essays I read maybe ever was one that started out by a woman who was telling me that she likes to crochet. And I had an immediate stereotype about, little old ladies, crocheting. And I said, what's she going to do with this? And she kind of went and blew it up and looked at it from lots of different angles and said, well, in fact, my grandmother taught me how to do it. It was a way that we bonded. She didn't have a lot of opportunities as a woman in her day and age. And these were things that were valued and that she could pass along to me as something of hers. you're making something for someone, it's actually something that's warm and useful. And that's when it started to resonate with me, because in fact, my firstborn son was born almost 8 weeks early and had to be in this incubator for, a couple weeks. And there, some lady or person had made these tiny little knit, I mean, I don't know if they were crocheted or not, but somebody made it for his head and in the blanket that matched it and everything. We still have those things. So then she was starting to really pull me in, because that was when you blow things up and have a lot, so you increase your chances that something's going to resonate. And so that was what it did. That one got me. And then she talked about how she would get teased at school. This is well, everyone else is on their phone on TikTok, and she's in the corner, knitting something. She said she liked the fact that it got her off her phone. Actually, she thought about how it teaches patience, and how it's kind of a monotonous task, right? And she even translated like the formula for, you slip, stitch, purl, pass, blah, blah, blah. She spelled it out. And so she was bringing up all these benefits of crocheting. And finally, by the end, in all capital letters, she was like, I'm going to start a crocheting revolution, because if everyone did this, the world would be a better, kinder, more thoughtful place. And so she kind of really worked it up nicely into a kind of a fever pitch about how important this little thing that she does and probably always will do, into a huge thing. And it was a great example, just picking something that's unique to you and thinking about all the different ways it's informed who you are, how you see the world, that kind of thing. Sorry, that was kind of long, but essays, I know they're a hard thing to grasp, because often in your school systems, okay, now I'm back and I'm going to the chat. I'm not sure how much time we got yet, but we do cover the financial aid if student studies abroad. That was one of the kind of unique things that we're able to do. And Pedro is asking about student organizations. So student organizations, we have an archery club, I know, that was started by one of our students that had gone abroad and was able to do archery. Lots of things around political and social justice issues, however, LGBTQ issues and advocacy. People organize, and it's a good way to judge kind of who's on campus, what's important to enough students to have gotten together to form a group. A lot of us will have student organization pages where you can go in, and some will have links to websites that they run are on that campus. If enough of those things resonate with things that you're already interested in or pursuing, or could become interested in, and that's a good clue as to a social fit. One of the organizations that one of the Brazilians started, they were from Sao Paulo. They said, I'm going to Grinnell. I'm out of the tree. Grew up in the city. I'm going to go and do all these outdoor activities. And so they joined the outdoor activity, and they went canoeing. They hiked around the rolling hills of Ava, and maybe bicycled around them as well. But they were like, this isn't quite extreme enough for us. Like, we want to go surfing and climb mountains and stuff, which we don't have the opportunity in Iowa. So they started Dream Outdoor Sports Club and got budget to, during the 2-week spring break that we have, go out to California and surf. One time they also went out to Colorado, rafted, did whitewater rafting and cliff climbing and stuff like that. So that was a group. There are groups that organize around religious traditions, because Grinnell has no official religious affiliation with it, or something that they want to organize around and share. I think there used to be a nap club, because students realizing, you know what, this schedule, we're up really late, lots of nights, maybe we need, for our own wellness, be more deliberate about naps. And I'm not sure it was exactly like in kindergarten, where you have little mats and with your name on them and you lay down there and try to sleep, which I never could as a little kid. But just about, let's just check in with each other, make sure we're sleeping and getting enough rest and all that. So, of course, there's a lot of clubs that I work with, because I'm a musician, are organized around like acapella groups that we have. There's a group called Free Sound, which is like rock bands. They have money to buy guitar strings and drum heads and all that. They have a dedicated rehearsal space on campus that anyone can access who's a member of that club. And of course, there's all kinds of sports, 20 varsity sports programs, music and theater, studio art, creative writing, and all of that stuff. So again, I'm probably answering these too long. Okay, thanks, Raquel. She's got to take off. I think that might be it.
Okay, so I'm super impressed. Grinnell College is what we call a hidden gem, because it's great. The financial aid options are great for international students. The academic options are really good, and the campus looks amazing. So I'm really impressed with that.
We need to bring you to campus sometime soon.
Yes, please. I took a screenshot of all the benefits, and I'm going to share this specifically with the network, because this is really, really good for the Brazilian profile. So, and guys, thank you for your questions. Great questions. At this session, Pablo is asking about the TOEFL and the GT minimum score. I think this is an important question before we leave.
Yes.
Thanks, Pablo.
Yeah. We typically don't quote minimums, like cutoff scores, I should say, but the average for admitted students last year on TOEFL was 106, and the average DET was probably 125, 130.
Okay, that's good. That's good. Not bad. That's good. Thank you. And for all that, I think it's important to keep the level up. It's very good. Thank you. And thank you, guys.
And
this
we're
session
test optional. We're SAT optional, I should say.
Yeah, which makes sense. Yes. And guys, this session is being recorded. It will be available on our YouTube channel, YouTube/EducationUSA Brasil. And I'm going to send you this recording as well, Jonathan, so you can share with Brazilian students if you wish.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you.
And if you want to say a few words before we leave.
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate you guys taking the time, and I'm not sure if you're probably all over the country, but we're gonna try to get to more places on future trips. I've been often coming to Sao Paulo and to Rio, of course, and Campinas at times, but because we're getting more students from other states and other cities, I'll try to do better a job of getting out to you, because I think personal aspect of admissions is what I love, and I think it's more effective to actually sit down and talk to people or look people in the eye, and hopefully some of the enthusiasm we have for our institutions is contagious. The other thing I would say is don't be afraid to ask people like myself at schools you're interested in to talk to students and to talk to faculty members, perhaps. Admissions people, we can get you started. We know the basics. We can kind of set you up, but talking to students that are actually living and having the experience, I think can be really really helpful in terms of deciding where your best fit environment is going to be. Should I get that?
Is it your phone?
I'll say, oi. No, it's a phone here.
Oh my goodness,
Okay.
just put it off, please, put it off. I'm sorry. Okay, I
Okay,
thought it
if we're
was your
done,
phone. Okay, so
oh,
bye.
they gave up.
Yeah. So, okay, thank you very much, Jonathan. Thank you, everybody.
And keep
for
up the
being
good
here.
work.
Yes, you do a great job. Great questions. It means great applicants. Okay, bye-bye.
Yes, please. Email us if you have questions.
Oh,
I'll
do you
put
want to type your email here on
Yeah,
on the chat, please?
I should. And if you want to do interviews, Zoom interviews, you can email me and we can set those up.
Okay. Edward SJ at grinnell.edu. And if you need anything, you just email me and I'll forward to Jonathan as well. Okay? Beijos, pessoal. Bye-bye. Thank you very much.
Obrigado.